Election should not be a scenario of two wolves and one sheep voting on what their dinner would be. Almost all countries across the globe are democracies, so it would be quite normal to expect that voting, the primary way to participate in a democracy, be compulsory for the citizens of a country. But it's quite the opposite in reality. Voter turnouts are normally expected to be only around 60 to 70%. The highest ever voter turnout was seen in North Korea at 99.7%. But as it is North Korea, there was only one candidate in the polls, and people who did not show up to vote, well, they weren't that well received. The largest turnout in general is in Belgium at about 87.2%. So, why is voting not made mandatory around the world when so much depends on it? The concept of voting is an age old process, conceptualized to promote the idea of freedom of the common people. With mandatory voting, you not only get the vote of every person, but you also end up spending less time trying to spread the message of the benefits of voting. Despite so many advantages, only 22 countries in the world have compulsory voting. There is a school of thought that making voting compulsory contradicts the very reason why voting began. Forcing people to vote goes against their freedom, as abstention to vote is also a right. And it also becomes quite apparent that people cannot be forced to vote. Remember the highest turnout in Belgium? Well, that's because Belgium has a system of mandatory voting. But in spite of this, there has never been a turnout of more than 90%. Australia is another country where voting has been made compulsory. It has notoriously been a victim of a lot of donkey votes. No, it does not mean voting for the Democrats. Rather, it refers to the scenario where uninformed or undecided voters, who need to rank the politicians in their order of preference, simply rank them in the order in which they appear on the ballot. Such votes are legitimate, and their sheer number can majorly influence the election. In Brazil, people are so frustrated with the state of politics in their country that they have resorted to voting blank or annulled their ballots. This kind of ballot accounted for 41.5% of the votes in the mayoral elections in 2016. It is estimated that 61% of people are against the mandatory ballot as they do not share beliefs with either of the political candidates. This was the trend observed in Brazil, the largest country that has implemented compulsory voting. There is no doubt that voting is an incredibly important aspect of our way of living, and it is necessary to allow as many people as it is possible to vote. There have been instances where countries have resorted to creative ways to ensure maximum participation. Gambia is one such example, where people voted by dropping colored marbles into a drum in what was known as the marble system of voting. It had been adopted to eliminate spoiled ballots and help people vote a lot easily. Given that voting is a right that everyone has, it is also a duty. A duty that's not just for us, but for the government as well. The government needs to get involved to make sure that more people get to exercise this duty, even if it's not made compulsory. After all, when all is said and done, we're not wolves and sheep.